It's time for the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. Stay tuned as we discuss local and national sports from Southeast Missouri and beyond. The Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle is brought to you by Royal Retros. If you like cool throwback jerseys of defunct sports teams, Royal Retros is the place to buy. If you go to royalretros.com and you order with the code SPORTSDESK, all one word, you can get a little bit off your order. So check out Royal Retros. And now on with the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark
from the cabin.
And I'm Mark Sanders, holding down the fort here at the Gus Ridgel Public Library in Poplar Bluff.
And I'm Kyle Roberts, live from my bed in my Golden Girls pajamas.
Guys, we have got an exciting show today. We are going to be joined in a bit by a very special guest, but we have got a lot of stuff we're going to dive into right now. And the first thing we're going to talk about is some high school basketball. I'll lead off by talking about the Puxico Indians. Got a really nice win last night over Stoddard County rival Bell City. They beat the Cubs 75-60 at Puxico at the Arnold Ryan Gymnasium. That was a really good game. Senior guard Landan Burchard went off for 40 points. And Puxico is looking really good. They've only lost once this year to Sykeston. And the Stoddard County tournament's coming up at the end of the month. It's going to be fun to see what happens between them, Dexter, and Woodland, to see which one of those teams, in all likelihood, wins it. I'm not saying that somebody else couldn't emerge, but those are the three heavyweights in that conference. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Oh, my goodness. I want to know when Puxico versus Woodlands. Just tell me when and where, and I want to be there.
I believe that's going to be February 17th. By the way, next Tuesday night, Dexter's at Puxico if you want to see some more must-see TV.
Well, the only problem is I only go on road games if somebody's paying me to be there. Otherwise, my bedtime's at 9 o'clock.
You got to see a pretty good road game last night, Mark. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I went to Greenville. Twin Rivers traveled up to take on the Greenville Bears, and, it looked like it was going to be a non-competitive game in the first half because Twin Rivers built a 45-20 halftime lead, but Greenville came back really strong. In the second half, they started to hit, especially on their perimeter shots, whereas the Royals' shooting just went ice cold. I mean, the players who were just routinely knocking down threes in the first half were missing by a wide margin. And, when you see those momentum shifts often in basketball, you see how it just goes completely from one side to the other. And by the end of the game, the Bears had pulled within 2 points with a big shot they made at 66-64. But there was less than 10 seconds on the clock at that point, and so they had to foul Twin Rivers on their inbound pass, and the Twin Rivers guy hit one of two free throws to make it a 3-point lead. And then Greenville only had a few seconds to try to get off a shot, and it bounced off the front of the rim, and Twin Rivers held on for what turned out to be a really, really exciting game.
Cool deal. And, that's another one of those Ozark Fiddles Conference rivalries. Those OFC rivalries are always good. I'll admit I'm a little biased because when I first started writing sports 25 years ago, one of my first beats was covering Ozark Fiddles Conference basketball, and I learned, very early in my career to have an appreciation for those OFC rivalries, whether it's Twin Rivers and Greenville, Clearwater and Neelyville, Twin Rivers and Donovan, Neelyville and Donovan, East Carter and Donovan, East Carter and Twin Rivers, East Carter and Neelyville, East Carter, Clearwater, and on and on.
Yeah.
And those rivalries are always good rivalries. Speaking of East Carter, they played Van Buren this past Friday night in the big Carter County rivalry known as the Yellow Sucker game. And the Van Buren Bulldogs made a pretty big statement in the game. They got out to a very big lead early, I think led by 20 points after the first quarter, and ended up taking a very convincing win over East Carter. I mean, that's almost like a statement win.
Don't sleep on Van Buren. I saw them play in the Bloomfield Christmas tournament. They beat Dexter very decisively in the semifinals game, and then they gave Puxico everything that they could handle in that championship game. They fell short, but the thing that you see when you watch the Bulldogs play is that they are true to their mascot. They are aggressive. They are in your face. They're just relentless in how they press on both ends of the court. I would say if they had a couple of guys who could consistently hit those outside 3-point shots, they could definitely be a force in the postseason. It may still turn out to be so. I think their defense right now is stronger than their offense. But if they can find an additional spark on offense, they're going to be a tough out.
I agree. And, it's kind of a good news, bad news thing for high school basketball in Missouri. The good news is that between Puxico, Van Buren, and Haytide, there's a pretty good chance.
Don't forget Woodland.
Get to go to the Final Four. The bad news is that only one of them will be there because of the way the brackets are set up.
Right. Speaking of brackets and championships, I want to talk about the Donovan Donettes. They suffered their first loss of the season up in Columbia to Class 2 Tipton. And I don't know anything about the Tipton team. You described them as a Class 2 powerhouse, even though they only have an 8-5 record, but they sure took it to the Donettes, almost doubling them up with a 66-34 win. And then the girls came back and hosted East Carter and took out their frustrations on the Lady Redbirds with a 70-29 victory this past Monday.
That's right. And from what I've heard, Tipton, I want to say Tipton is like the number 2 team in Class 2. They're a very impressive squad, even though they're a Class 2 school. I think they've played a very tough schedule, and you've got to be pretty good to not just beat the Donovan Donettes, but to absolutely manhandle them, which is what Tipton did last week. I mean, they didn't just beat the Donettes. They dominated them. I mean, they mercy ruled them. It was like watching, it was like watching like a 10 o'clock game at the Bloomfield Christmas tournament. I mean, it was, and you've got to be pretty good to be that much better than the Donettes. And they got the ranking in the polls to show it.
Yeah, I also wonder do you know where Tipton is located?
I want to say Tipton's in central Missouri, not that far from Columbia.
Okay. The travel may have been an issue with that because, from Donovan, you're talking about at least 5 hours on a bus, if not more, to get from Ripley County up to Columbia. That's the one thing about Jeff City, Columbia, even Kansas City. There's just no good way to get there from southeast Missouri. All the routes are indirect for the most part, and it's a long and tiring trip. I'm not going to make that the only excuse, but the travel may have factored into the margin of victory.
It very well could have, and one thing I want to talk about before we go to break, the Poplar Bluff Mules. Poplar Bluff Mules went out to Joplin this past week to the Kaminsky Classic out in Kyle Country and took 7th at that tournament. I think they beat William Chrisman in the last game. In the consolation semifinals, they lost to Kyle's Webb City Cardinals. And then on Tuesday night, they played West Plains here, and West Plains came in and beat the Mules 63-48, got the big lead early. Poplar Bluff cut it down to 8 early in the fourth quarter, but just couldn't complete the comeback. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Mules do coming up soon. I know they are playing Jackson next week, and Jackson's, a top 10 team in Class 6. So the Mules got the work cut out for them.
Yeah, I want to use this as another opportunity to urge the Missouri State High School Activities Association to hire somebody to update their website, for heaven's sake, because I'm looking at the Mules page, and it has their season record sitting at 4-3, which is not right. The Kaminsky Classic, which was over on January 10th, there's no listings of results there. They played last night at West Plains. or excuse me, Tuesday night, since everyone's listening Thursday, but yeah, Tuesday night of this week at West Plains. No, they're hosting West Plains, but no results for that. It's like, is there nobody available to run this website? I mean, I could use a few extra dollars if you could, if you want to get a hold of me. It's easy to find me. I'm here in Poplar Bluff, but good grief, this is about the only place that is available for people to access high school scores and results on the internet, and they're a week behind, or sometimes they just don't even post stuff at all. I mean, this is the website that is supposed to be the accurate record for high school sports, and it simply isn't. And if I knew who to complain to, they would be getting a strongly worded email.
I know what you're saying, and it's something that it does need to get fixed. Misha is doing a lot better than they used to, but they still got a long way to go, and hopefully that is something we can get fixed. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this first segment, and when we come back, we are hoping to have a very special guest here on the Sports Desk, Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers College women's basketball coach Alex Wiggs, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle, and we are joined on the White Courtesy telephone today by a trio of special guests. We are joined by Puxico head coach Bryant Fernetti and Puxico Indians seniors Landan Burchard and Jett Hancock. Guys, welcome to the show.
How's it going? Howdy.
It's going good. You guys are in the midst of just another great season. Just the one loss. You played Tuesday night against Bell City, got a really impressive win over them. So you're undefeated in Stoddard County play again this year. What's it been like so far?
Well, we're just trying to stay the course and keep trying to play, the way we want to play. We know we're going to get a lot of people's best shot, because we have been pretty successful lately. And also, I feel like almost every other team in the county is a little bit better this year than they were last year. So, we just got to know that they're going to be ready to play. And, we play a lot of pretty good teams, so you just can't take a night off.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen. It does seem like Stoddard County as a whole, everybody's a little bit better this year. Dexter seems like they've improved a lot. Bell City's improved a lot. I caught some of that game last night, and Bell City gave you guys a pretty good fight. Tell me about that game.
We had a pretty big lead at the half, and then we just we didn't play very good defense in the third quarter. But a lot of that was, they started hitting a lot of shots too. So, some of it might have been us, but, a lot of it was, they stepped up and played better in the third quarter, and then we just had to respond to that.
One thing that's been a constant for you guys this year is you've had great play from your seniors. Landan had a big game last night. I believe he scored 40. Jett had a really nice game last night. And this is kind of a question for them leading off. Guys, tell me about, what's it been like, kind of being the leaders for this team? Landan, I'll let you go first.
It feels good to be able to lead our team. A lot of the guys have faith in us because, we've been here for a while. So it helps that our teammates believe in us and listen.
Good deal. Jett, like I said last night, you guys, Bell City did make it pretty close on you guys, but you guys kind of rallied and ended up retaking control of the game. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we should never been that close with them. Us being up 19 at half, we shut down. They started making shots. We quit moving the ball as much. We forced some shots. And I don't know. I think that we were fouling too much, and then we just weren't moving on defense. We just let them get back into the ball game too easy.
Mike, I got a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Hey, this is Mark Sanders in the studio. Coach, I'm looking at your regular season schedule over the next month, and it's a gauntlet. Greenville and Dexter at home, and then on the road at Bernie. Then you've got the Stoddard County tournament followed by a home game at East Carter, then the OFC tournament, and then your final regular season game is going to be at Woodland. So there are no easy wins. So how are you preparing to take on a really tough schedule here at the end of the season?
Well, we know it's going to prepare us for what we're trying to do come district time. We have a pretty tough district too. So, I think our guys get up and excited for the games like a Dexter, Bernie, and all those types of games, and the Stoddard County and all those. So, I think it'll be good for us to also, play against some really good teams, but also play against teams that kind of play a different style. Dexter and Bernie may play a little more methodical, whereas Woodland's definitely going to play as fast as they possibly can. So we're going to see a little bit of everything, the last month of the season to hopefully get us ready for district play.
Yeah. Now, the three of you were all together last season when you made a run at the postseason tournament. Didn't get as far as I know you wanted to, but what did you learn from last season's postseason experience that you're applying to the run this season?
You just got to try to peak at the right time. The last couple games, some people probably are a little disappointed we haven't won by more. But, basketball is one of the longer seasons where you're going to go through the ups and downs of the season. And, we know that, like you said earlier, with the schedule we have coming up and the different teams we're going to be playing, and also a couple conference tournaments to get excited about, that hopefully that can kind of get us in the right mindset as a team and get us kind of peaking at the right time come, the end of February and hopefully into March.
Okay, terrific. Good luck with that. Mike, back to you.
And that's one thing that stood out. Sorry. That's one thing that's kind of stood out is you guys, at the beginning of the season, y'all are getting a lot of big wins, but you've also started showing that you win the close ones too. And I think that's going to be important, especially when you get into the postseason. And, if you guys get back to state, get into that level too. Tell me about that.
Well, you want to be challenged, and we've been able to throw, a couple guys off the bench in some challenging situations that put them in spots that hopefully if we need them down the stretch, a couple sophomores that haven't played varsity yet, they've been, at the end of the Christmas tournament game, we had two sophomores on the floor. So that kind of experience in front of a couple thousand fans is going to benefit them to where, if we need to do some things later on in the year that we can trust they're going to be able to go out there and play.
One thing that Martin mentioned earlier is you guys have got the Stoddard County tournament coming up the week after next. I'm going to ask you guys this first, and Coach, I'll come back to you. Landan, Jett, what are your thoughts coming into the Stoddard County tournament? You guys won it last year, and this year it's going to be a fight. I mean, between y'all, Dexter, Woodland, it's going to be interesting, guys. How are you feeling going in?
I think it would be a little bit better than it was last year. It'd definitely be tough. I mean, 3 or 4 different teams can win it. It's going to take us playing at our best to beat all those teams.
Indeed. Coach, what are your thoughts?
Just like what we talked about earlier, not only do, a lot of people are going to look at the top 4 teams, possibly, Bernie, Woodland, Dexter, and us, but, we've also seen within the last week or two that, Bell City's going to play some good basketball. Advance beat Bernie the other night and beat St. Vincent last night. So, you can't really take, I don't care if it's the 1-8 game or the 2-7 game or whatever it is, you can't walk in there and just assume you're going to win. So it's going to be a good tournament from top to bottom, and could be a year where maybe we do see some upsets.
I think so too. It's going to be really fun to watch. Guys, anything else you'd like to add, Coach?
No, I think we're good.
Sounds great. And that is Puxico head coach Bryant Fernetti and Puxico seniors Landan, Burchard, and Jett Hancock here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And we are getting ready to dive into a lot of sports right now. We're going to lead off by talking about Three Rivers College men's and women's basketball. their seasons got geared up again last Wednesday night after we taped the podcast for the week. But there's been some pretty notable things going on. I'm going to lead off with the Raiders men's basketball team. They got a really nice win over a top 25 ranked Moberly team on last Wednesday night. Beat them by 3 points here at the Leibel Family Sports Complex. That was a really good game, really back and forth. The first half, was really low scoring, not a lot of offense. Moberly got it out about an 8-point lead in the second half, but we kept chipping away, and we finally pulled ahead late and ended up getting a big win. And then on Saturday, we went up to State Fair and got a very impressive win over the Roadrunners in their home building at the Davis Multipurpose Building. Got a pretty good lead late in the first half in that game, never really let up from there. And for the first time in, I believe, 7 years, we are 2-0 in region play on the men's side, and very excited about that.
Yeah, that includes a 3-game winning streak and an overall record of 14-5. So, I mean, things are looking really bright so far this season for the men.
Yep. And then on the women's side, the Lady Raiders opened Region 16 play with a big win over Moberly this past Wednesday night, and then played at State Fair this past Saturday afternoon in a battle of not only Region 16 powers, but of national powers. Both teams came into that game ranked. State Fair came into that game undefeated, and State Fair came away the winner in that game, beat the Lady Raiders 68-58. That was a very back-and-forth game that the Raiders led much of the first half and into the third quarter. But State Fair got the lead toward the end of the third quarter and ended up taking it from there. It's going to be an interesting rematch coming up on the 28th, I believe the 28th at the Leibel Family Sports Complex. But, that's the first time in almost 2 years the Lady Raiders have lost to a Region 16 team in the regular season. That ended a 21-game regular season Region 16 winning streak for the Lady Raiders. So
yeah, let's remember. Yeah,
what can I say?
Let's remember this is a really young team. They do not have a whole lot of returning players from last year. Coach Wiggs's squad is composed of mainly first-year players. So the fact that they're sitting at 16-3 is a good sign. And when we do square up against State Fair again, looks like just in a couple more weeks down here in Poplar Bluff. It'd be nice if they're still undefeated, if we could hand them their first loss of the season here on the Three Rivers campus. So be looking forward to that game in a couple of weeks.
I agree 100%. And speaking of games to look forward to, the Raiders and Lady Raiders are both taking on the Mineral Area Cardinals and Lady Cardinals this Saturday afternoon at the Leibel Family Sports Complex. The Lady Raiders play at 2. The Raiders play at 4. That's going to be two really good games. Mineral Area's women's team, is having a pretty solid year. That's a very dangerous matchup for the Lady Raiders. A bit of cool trivia. The Mineral Area Lady Cardinals are coached by Carrie Shepard. Carrie Shepard is a South Penobscot High School grad and also played some college basketball for the Southeast Missouri State Redhawks. She's had a great career, not only as a player but also as a coach. And she's doing a good job with that team up there. And on the men's side, that's going to be like a heavyweight fight. I mean, Three Rivers and Mineral Area might have the most intense one-on-one rivalry in the region. Last year, we lost 3 times in the regular season to Mineral Area, including 2 games where we had 15-point leads and blew it. Lost in overtime up there. We beat them in triple overtime in the Region 16 tournament at Jefferson College in Hillsboro. And that ended an 11-game losing streak to the Cardinals. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one turns out. Mineral Area comes in, as of our taping, is 11-6. They're playing West Plains, on Wednesday night after we record. But, 3 of those 6 losses have came to top 5 teams for the Cardinals. Gulf Coast State, which, beat them here, in November. And then back in December, Mineral Area went down to Texas and played Howard College, which I believe is number 5 in the country, and Midland, which is number 2 in the country. And while they lost those games soundly, those are both down in Texas. And Mineral Area has played an absolutely tough schedule. They've got a tough team. We are going to get all we want Saturday.
Yeah, and that is a big rivalry between Three Rivers and Mineral Area. They're our closest rival regionally. So just up in Park Hills, so about an hour and a half away from Poplar Bluff. From those of you outside of the Southeast Missouri area, if you're wondering about the geography. And it's a long time rivalry, and it's a lot like Cardinals Cubs or Packers Vikings or Yankees Red Sox, Rams 49ers. Throw you a bone there,
Yep.
Kyle. I mean, they're two teams that play each other several times every season. It's always competitive, and both the teams and the fan bases really don't like each other at all.
It's going to be a war on Saturday at the Leibel Family Sports Complex. And staying in the vein of college sports, but switching from college basketball to college football, we have got a very big college football game coming up on Monday night when the Indiana Hoosiers take on, yes, you heard that right, the Indiana Hoosiers. This ain't basketball, folks. This is college football. The Indiana Hoosiers are playing the University of Miami Hurricanes, for the national championship. And I believe that's actually going to be, is that going to be in Miami?
Yes, it's at Hard Rock Stadium.
Oh,
Joe Robbie
That's
for old men like
wild.
you. Yeah.
Joe Robbie. I love it.
Indiana's going to outdraw Miami in terms of attendance.
Well, they just are. They just are because, Miami has a history of national championships. It's a history that goes back to me being in high school and college, so it's nothing recent. But I mean, they've been there before. They're a storied program, going back to the days of.
But this program, this group of guys hasn't.
No, not at all. But Indiana's never been there before, and who knows when they'll be here again. So I mean, they're going to completely empty out the state. It's going to be, a mass migration from Indiana to South Florida, like we've probably never seen before on this weekend. And I heard on one of the podcasts that I listened to that if you can find a ticket, the minimum prices that they're going for right now is about $3,000 a seat. And I'm sure that's only going to go up as the game gets closer.
Oh yeah, I found that out from one of my buddies who is a lifelong Canes fan, and he went to the semifinal against Ole Miss, and he's like, I think I'm gonna go to the Natty, and then he saw the prices. I asked him, I said, "Hey, you going?" And he's like, "Man, they want $3,200 for the cheapest. I'm not going."
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I feel the same way about sporting events as I do about going to the movies. I can have just as good of an experience at home, and I can pause at any time I want and go get a snack, go use the restroom, whatever I want. There's very few events where I actually want to be there in person, but I don't think I can say the same for Indiana fans. I think Indiana fans are going to empty their savings account and get rid of every other item on their bucket list so that they can be here to witness what I think is going to be a historic victory for Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm just going to go ahead and pick them to win by a couple of touchdowns. Miami has a great defense. I've been saying that since the beginning of the tournament. It's like Miami's defense could take them all the way, but it's not going to take them past what Indiana has done to all of the competition this season. The Hoosiers win by 2 touchdowns.
Indiana is so absurdly balanced offensively. They're too deep at running back, insanely deep at wide receiver. The offensive line mauls people. Again, I have to stress that originally they were going to give the Rose Bowl MVP to the entire offensive line, but it wound up going to their center, Pat Coogan. But nonetheless, we know the straw that stirs the drink offensively is Fernando Mendoza. There's too many weapons. They control the line of scrimmage and can literally pick and choose what they want to do. He has more touchdown passes than incompletions so far. What kind of asinine statistic is that? They play they play 2 games and they are legitimate. He has thrown more incompletions or more touchdown passes than incompletions. Defensively, They're an Omega level threat at every position group. If you get that reference, you're a complete nerd. Aiden Fisher, middle linebacker. D'Angelo Pons, who picked six Dante Moore from Oregon on the first play of the semifinals, and they're anchored up front by Tyreek Tucker and Mikel Kamara. I mean, this team legitimately plays. When you watch tape, they are so technically sound and assignment based. It's like watching prime saving defense.
Yeah.
No over pursuing. Finish all their tackles. No wasted efforts. I love what Mario Cristobal, who is a Miami alum, and he was a center. He's a national championship player or winning player there. My concern for Miami is, can Carson Beck come through when they ultimately need him? He has a historic track record of being a little flaky in late game situations. Granted, he came up big time against Ole Miss, but can he do it on this stage in his home stadium? This is his last game. And if Miami wins, he'll be a 3-time national champion. He won 2 as a backup at Georgia.
Yeah, I mean,
I still take Indiana, but if the U wins, don't act surprised. But I just think this is such an unprecedented turnaround at any level of collegiate sports. Indiana has shown the blueprint for everybody else who's been told you're not good enough to do it. And I'm going to take the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I think if we look at the two quarterbacks, I think we really have to look at the defenses, because one of the things that's notable, even though Miami was able to hold on and beat Ole Miss, their star edge rushers, Reuben Bain, and refresh my memory on who the guy on the other side is for Miami, Kyle.
Yeah, give me a second. I can get that get their roster pulled up real quick.
Anyway, they're 2 D ends, who are projected to be, top. Reuben Bain Jr. is projected to be a top 10 draft pick in the upcoming NFL draft. And guy on
the other one you're speaking of is Akeem Mesidor, who leads the team in TFLs and sacks. He has 15.5 TFLs and 10.5 sacks.
Yeah.
For a Miami defense with 47 sacks.
I know.
If that doesn't sound like old school Miami defense, I don't know what does.
But here's the thing. They really didn't get too much pressure on Trinidad Chambliss in that game against Ole Miss, which is why they were able to stay in toward the end of the game, even though in the first half, Miami really dominated the ball in terms of time of possession. But Bain and Mesidor were pretty much held in check. And, give credit to Ole Miss, but, I mean, their offensive line is not nearly as stout and accomplished as Indiana. So, if Indiana can hold those rushers in check and give Mendoza time to do what he does, then we have to look at the other side. Is Miami's offensive line going to be able to protect Carson Beck in the same way? Because, Beck's not a very big guy. I mean, just in terms of size, he's not very stout. He's got more of a J.J. McCarthy build than a Josh Allen build. So I think if they can put some hits on him early and get him to start seeing ghosts, I think that things could go south, even farther south than Miami, really fast for the Hurricanes.
No, I completely agree. But I'm looking forward to Monday night. I think we all are, to see something that, let's be honest, no one in their right mind ever thought they would see the Indiana Hoosiers, who are a Big Ten and college basketball blue blood, win a national championship in football.
Yeah.
Where going into this season they had 990 losses, and thanks to this year, now that title goes to Northwestern.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it's a traditional Big Ten program that's not your Ohio States, not your Michigans or your Penn States or any of those elite historically dominant Big Ten programs that's on this platform. And then you look at programs like the Missouri, like a Duke or a Northwestern for that matter, but the smaller programs that have fleeting moments of success but are not historically dominant. And they're like, you know what? We don't have an excuse anymore.
Yeah,
they did it. We can too.
I will say one thing. Whoever runs college football, the NCAA, the broadcast networks, Amazon, I don't care. Fix this ridiculous schedule, okay? I mean, it's January 19th. We're 3 weeks into January. We're already 2 weeks into the NFL playoffs, okay? The national championship game for college football needs to be played on January 1st, New Year's Day. Let's get these bowl games rolling as soon as possible. Do them every week, and don't give me any nonsense about how they're student athletes and they have to take finals week and Christmas break and blah, 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 blah. Folks, I have been a college professor for 26 years, and I can assure you we're more than willing to give extensions to the athletes if they're playing in the college football playoffs, okay? So let's just...
Basically what you're saying is January 1st, the national championship should always be at the Rose Bowl, because I'd be okay with that.
I would be totally okay with that. However they want to work it for their corporate sponsors and their ratings and everything, but it's really not fair to these athletes, some of whom are also students, to drag this crap out this long. It's obviously a naked money grab, but it's also not really practical, especially with the transfer portal. So this would fix a lot of the problems with players leaving before the end of their current team season because they're going into the transfer portal. You can make the national championship game on January 1st. Transfer portal opens on January 2nd, and that solves about 50% of the ancillary problems that we have with this tournament.
Indeed. And go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, no, I was going to say I couldn't agree more. And then the transfer portal, that's a whole other tangent for another episode. Because, boy, we could go around and round.
Well, we could, but we have to talk about we have to talk about the other football tournament that's going on, and that is the NFL playoffs. Guys,
that was a good one.
Yeah, I'm going to concur with colleagues all over sports media that this was the best wild card weekend that I can remember in 15, maybe 20 years. I mean, we had so many, exciting games. Even Texans and Steelers was an ugly game, but it was 7-6 at the end of the third quarter. It ended up being a blowout, but not until the fourth quarter. We had the Bills pulling out a 3-point win against the Jaguars. Patriots winning a 16-3 rock fight over the Chargers. The Rams coming back. Matthew Stafford with a classic final game-winning drive for a 3-point win over the Panthers. The 49ers, literally the walking wounded, probably call them the walking dead after this week at Seattle, but gutting out a 23-19 win against the Eagles. Not only knocked the Eagles out of the playoffs, but knocked their offensive coordinator out of a job this week. And what can we say about the Chicago Bears? Another miracle by Caleb Williams. And guys, that fourth down pass that he threw, not on his back foot, but falling backwards and throwing it 20 yards down, just a dot, and dropped it into Roma Dunze on 4th and 8. Guys, I mean, I especially hate to say this to you, Kyle, being a Rams fan, because I have to go into Chicago on maybe the coldest day of the year there at Soldier Field, but the Bears are looking more and more every week like the team of destiny this season.
I agree, but you know what happens to dreams sometimes? They die. And allow me to open up my mobile device for a conversation with the biggest Bears fan I know, Mr. Scott Borkran, as he wanted to say, did you know that dome teams are 1-15 in the last decade when playing under 40 degrees in the playoffs? And I said, that will not matter, I promise. And I apologized in advance for what Jared Verse and Byron Young are going to do to Caleb Williams. We're a different level of pain. Period.
Yeah, but,
and we got guys built
they're going to have to contain him.
Play in the cold.
They're going to have to contain him. He's big and he's fast, and when Caleb gets outside of the tackles and he can run and create, is almost impossible to stop. And he's faster than those. He's faster than those edge rushers. They have to keep containment.
All right, now. And then I got this text. Has Puka Nacua ever seen snow?
Yes, he has.
Like, bro,
they
he played
have
at BYU.
Yes.
It snows in Utah.
Well, they have snow on his home planet too, because we all know that Puka Nacua is a space alien. But hey, what was the deal with that touchdown pass that just flew right through his hands? It's like he was despondent on the sidelines.
That hurt.
Yeah, you just don't see
That
him
hurt.
not
He
make
doesn't
those
drop
catches.
the ball like that.
Yeah, and
that
that's what.
hurt.
And that's what the Rams need to do.
I got to give credit to the Carolina Panthers. They had our receivers in a spin cycle and a complete blender in that game. I give Carolina a ton of credit. They are a tough football team in the future, very bright there. But with that being said, the Bears' defense isn't that good. They have just been very fortunate and blessed with turnovers aplenty, especially in the secondary. But our pass offense is too efficient for that. But here's the thing. Even if the weather is going to be as rough as it's projecting to be, we're a very capable team when it comes to running the football.
Yes.
It's not for nothing. Yes, I got numbers here. Obviously, we're number one in the league in passing. But listen, we finished 7th in rushing, and we're 16 yards per attempt.
You know, Sean McVay's probably one of the smartest, if not the smartest, coaches in the NFL. I think he's going to adjust accordingly for the weather. I think they are going to lean very heavily on their heavy personnel, 12 and 13 formations, running the ball, working on play action, looking for those deep explosive plays from Stafford to his receivers. And hopefully Devontae Adams is back in the swing. You could tell that he hadn't quite knocked off the rust against Carolina, so hopefully we'll see a better game from him. But from the beginning of this tournament, I've picked the Rams to at least make it to the conference championship. And I think the other thing that McVay is going to assure, once they get a lead, they're not going to let up. I think McVay's attitude is we have to score points with every possession and not give the Bears any hope of coming back in the fourth quarter.
Have to, simply because the Bears have shown an ability to be a quick strike offense. Listen, Caleb Williams, when he got drafted, I said he is a Mahomes build. He is a archetype of a Patrick Mahomes, of a Josh Allen, with the rocket arm and the ability to improvise and make plays outside of the pocket and extend defenses with his arm. I think he's completely arrived. And another thing we have to factor in is but offensively, Chicago is a lot more balanced than people think. They're the number one rushing. They're number 2 in the league in rushing this year with the two-headed monster of DeAndre Swift and Common guy who was a hell of a pickup as a rookie late in the draft. Now, here's the X factor for Chicago, and like Rams fans, pay attention. Luther Burden III has emerged as a big-time weapon, and I'm not just saying this as a Mizzou fan. He has absolutely shown up and become a go-to guy for Caleb Williams. He could cause real problems for us.
Yeah, I mean,
keep an eye out for LB3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this is going to be a blowout game. I think it's going to be really tough. My one concern that I would have if I were still a Rams fan is, yes, Matthew Stafford's finger was not broken. There's no bone fractures, but he did injure that hand. And if you've ever jammed a finger or slammed a finger in a car door or anything, that pain doesn't go away in less than a week. Now, obviously, he's going to be getting treatment. He's going to get that magic Toradol shot. Well, I don't know. He may not. He may not be able to take painkiller in that hand if it affects his grip. And when he gets out there in sub-zero temperatures, it's going to exacerbate that injury. So that's another reason why the Rams should look for success in their running game. And the Bears have a dismal defense against the run, so I think that they can lean heavily into that. Going out west to Seattle, the number 1 seeded Seahawks taking on the 49ers, who just keep figuring out ways to win, but I don't think that they have enough to overcome that Seahawks defense. So I think the 49ers' only hope is that they play absolutely mistake-free football and that they can somehow force Sam Darnold to reverting back to his blue screen of death ways. And if they can force 2 or 3 turnovers out of Darnold, they may stand a puncher's chance. If Darnold plays even an average game and doesn't turn over the ball, I think the Seahawks have too much for the 49ers to overcome.
I absolutely, yeah, go ahead, Mike. I absolutely agree there, but good news I do have, Fred Warner has been cleared for practice. That could be big for the Niners.
Yeah, definitely. That will definitely help. Mike, go ahead. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that one's going to be interesting. My first thought when I heard about that matchup, I said, with them losing George Kittle, that, the Niners don't have much of a chance in Seattle. But, with the possibility of them having Fred Warner soon, that could help. Also, too, Sam Darnold, he's the wild card. I mean, if Darnold plays good, then the Seahawks should win that game. But Sam Darnold still has yet to prove that he's not going to, self-destruct in a big game. That's going to be big. Can he turn in a big game in the clutch in the postseason? Last season, he didn't do it. Can he do it this year? We're going to find out.
Right. And you have to remember, he melted down against the Rams and Sean McVay, who is the other smartest head coach in the NFL? Probably Kyle Shanahan. So, yeah, I think Shanny's going to have all kinds of horrible things in store to throw at Darnold, and we'll just see if they can absorb it. Let's fly to the other coast. Let's fly from Seattle to Boston, Foxborough, Massachusetts, to be specific, where the Patriots are hosting the Houston Texans. Folks, the Texans absolutely, positively must win this game. Under no circumstances can the universe allow the New England Patriots to return to a conference championship game.
Oh, good Lord.
It's been too soon. It's too soon for them to build Dynasty 3.0. It's unacceptable. We must all unite and send all of our energy to the Texans defeating the Patriots.
Yeah, the Houston Texans are the Rebel Alliance taking on the Imperial New England Patriots. They may no longer have Emperor Belichick sitting in his throne room shooting lightning out of his fingers.
Yeah,
but they are still the Empire.
Yeah, it's like Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. It's like, what, the Empire came back again? I thought they blew them up in the last movie. Oh, my gosh.
But they're so much more likable now.
No, they are not more likable. They are still the New England Patriots. Now, yes, Drake May is much more likable than Tom Brady ever was, and Mike Vrabel has, orders of magnitude more personality than does Bill Belichick. I really think the key to this game is really going to be C.J. Stroud. I think that the Texans' defense is going to, for the most part, contain Drake May. The Texans have a better defense than the Chargers, and the Chargers really did a number on May. He did not perform nearly as well as he did in the regular season as he did against that Chargers defense, and the Texans defense is much better than the Chargers defense. So, I think he's going to play well enough, but I think he's also going to be under duress for the most of the game. So the question really becomes, can C.J. Stroud lead his team to score 21, 24, 27 points? I think it's probably what it's going to take. I'm looking at this game to be 24-21, 27-24, something like that, and either one of these teams can win this game by that kind of score. I think if it's a really low-scoring game, it definitely favors the Texans. But just like with the Seahawks-Niners game, it may come down to which team turns the ball over. And we know in the playoffs, each turnover is magnified in importance. So I think it's a really evenly matched game, and I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch on Sunday afternoon.
No, completely. Now, my main concern, and I know for the majority, it's C.J. Stroud. Can he lead this team and get a big road win? However, for me, the biggest question is, can the Texans run the ball against New England?
No.
The Houston Texans are 22nd in rushing.
No, they don't have a
and
running
New
back.
England is. No, they don't. It's running back by committee. You got Woody Marks, and you also have a passes prime Nick Chubb. That's the big issue. Now, the other issue for New England that I look at is their offensive line has struggled against the Chargers. Houston was getting pressure with no blitzing. Granted, it's Pittsburgh, and they're completely washed, and they're dysfunctional. But nonetheless, when you're able to generate a ton of pressure with just 4 down linemen and not have to send anybody, and your DBs can just sit back there and jump routes, that's a problem. The difference here is that New England is very, very balanced. They can run the ball really well. And one guy to look out for is rookie running back Travion Henderson. He's the home run hitter, and the speed threat to complement Ramondre Stevenson.
Who you got?
You know what? I'm taking H-Town, and I think they're going to squeeze it. It's going to be lower scoring than people think.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be cold up there, and low scoring and cold weather equals great defense. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. But I can't believe I just said that out. The Houston Texans to make the AFC Championship game. First time ever. And if the Bills win, then the Texans host. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. That is our marquee.
Speaking of the Bills.
Yeah, that is our marquee game. The Buffalo Bills take their Super Bowl hopes to Mile High to take on the top-seeded Denver Broncos. Obviously, the Broncos have an elite defense. It's the best defense in the league. The Bills' defense is not elite, but just like when the Avengers said, we have a Hulk, and the Bills can say, we have Josh Allen, who is the closest thing that we have to Superman in the playoffs, And so the real question is, will the Broncos defense be Superman's kryptonite?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question. That Denver defense has been a monster this year, but it almost feels like a Godzilla movie because Josh Allen is Godzilla.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what it feels like. He's the one-man army, but obviously with Buffalo, James Cook is where it's going to be at. They're really going to need him. He won the rushing title.
Can you run on the Broncos defense, though? I mean, you can't run on the Broncos defense.
Nobody really has been able to. Now, in fairness, there aren't a lot of really good rushing attacks in the AFC West, but James Cook is he's a hell of a running back. Now the big key for me with Josh Allen is his receiving core. Yeah, that's tough sledding against Denver in Denver.
It's just his tight ends. I mean, he doesn't.
You're in Denver.
They don't have any skill at the wide receiver position. He's going to have to rely on his tight ends, Knox and Kincaid, and it's and it's really going to be death by 1,000 cuts, and that may be the best strategy for the Bills defense. The Bills offense is like the best way to approach a good defense is to keep them on the field, wear them down, and tire them out. Because you can have the best scheme and the best players, but fatigue eventually affects us all. We're human, and there's just simply no way to be able to stand up. We saw that last year in the Super Bowl where the Eagles just wore the Chiefs' defense out to the point where, even Chris Jones couldn't do anything. He was so exhausted by the fourth quarter, he was just simply a non-factor in that game. And I wonder if the Bills will try to take that approach against the Broncos defense, just short passes, ball control, time of possession, and just beat up on the interior of that Broncos defense and not give their talented secondary a chance to make a game-changing interception. We do know that Josh Allen is prone to making boneheaded picks when he's trying to win the game all by himself. So, I'm going to go with my heart here. I think if I was being logical about it, I'd say that all of the odds are in the Broncos' favor. But, I just have to believe, this finally, after all these years, is going to be the Bills' year to win it all. So it may be a foolish pick, but I'm going to pick with my heart and go with the Bills to win at Denver.
You know, I'm in the same boat, guys, because like logic says, everything's working generally against Buffalo. But I told a customer at my work earlier who asked me about that game because he's not a fan of Josh Allen. I'm like, what's there not like? But he's a Chiefs fan. But I said, I'm a big believer in, like karma and fate and things of that nature. And I said, Martin Levy I believe he's 101 and he's still rolling. All the greats from those 90s teams that Bills fans hold so near and dear to their hearts, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, all of them. If the Bills win this Super Bowl, and we've said there's no Burrow, there's no Lamar, there's no Patrick in the way, I can't think of another city that has been crying for this to finally happen more, with having a genuine opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and thanks for clarifying
Josh Allen will
that.
have to put this team on his back. There is almost no option. It has to be him putting 52 on his back and saying, "I got you." Through all of it, I got you. And I'm kind of going there because I want to see Buffalo finally. I want to see Jim Kelly get to hold the Lombardi one time. I'm kind of getting a little emotion thinking about this. Dang it! I mean, especially if you watch that Four Falls of Buffalo, 30 for 30. Oof. It means everything to that city, and I think Josh Allen is very, very cognizant of that fact. They're going to win, and it's going to be ugly. It's not going to be a pretty game to watch. If Denver wins, we shouldn't be surprised, but if Buffalo does, I think they're winning the Super Bowl. I really do.
Yeah. No matter who wins these divisional games, the conference championships are going to be lit. This is why the NFL is the most popular sport in America. I mean, there's not. I know that the Stanley Cup tournament is the toughest. And I know that the World Series trophies, the oldest and maybe the most prestigious. The NBA championship has, all the hallmarks of the stars over the years, but just for sheer, drama and compelling entertainment, you just can't beat the NFL playoffs.
Agreed. And guys, on that note, that's going to be our show for this week. We're going to have some more fun stuff coming up next week, including recapping the national championship in college football and looking ahead to the conference championships in the NFL. Plus, we are going to have even more high school and college sports. It's going to be a good one. And on that note, I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And this is Kyle Roberts.
And you have been listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.